This thing working? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. It's been a little bit since we've done a video. So I decided to take a little break after Christmas because I had my girls after Christmas there with their mom on Christmas Day. Crystal and I were up in the mountains with old Cleater side by side that you can see in the background over there, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But ended up taking a little bit of a break, and then end of the year business stuff just got me distracted, plus trying to get some stuff done here in the shop, get caught up on some projects, or at least get a plan moving forward for some projects, keeping all the guys here in the shop busy. See, I gave myself a nice little slice on my cheek there this morning. Actually finishing up Richard's Camaro here. Just doing some alignment work on the front of it. So I slipped and decided to smash into the wastegate with my face. Wasn't cool. And it was bleeding like crazy earlier, but probably needed stitches because like I could open up. Yeah, be all right. Anyways, while you're here, please subscribe to the channel. I promise I'm not going to take a 2-week break again like I did 2 weeks before this. I am working on a massive video for where we took Cleater's side by side up to Windrock up in Tennessee, and man, it was awesome. All right, so let's jump into this video and tell you guys what all's going on here lately. All right, so first thing we'll talk about, old Cleater's side by side. And like I said before the intro, Crystal and I took it up to Windrock in Tennessee. 73,000 acres of trails and mountain climbing and rock climbing and all kinds of fun stuff. But in using that, I ended up killing the left rear wheel bearing, which this little stunt right here might have contributed. Yeah, that might have contributed, but also the bearing was really dry. I'm not going to take all the blame for it, but I went ahead and fixed it because I believe if you borrow something from someone, you should try and return it in a nicer condition, at least as nice of a condition as when you borrowed it from them. So we ended up replacing both rear wheel bearings. We changed all of the brake pads, which looking at them, they didn't really need to be replaced, but while I was using it, I felt the brakes were a little long pedal. Some of that could have been related to the wheel bearing because this wheel was cocking in and out quite a bit and probably pushing the pads back in the caliper. But anyway, so at least one pad was damaged, so went ahead and replaced them all. And we got her washed back up after the trip because as you saw in that little short clip a second ago, it was completely dirty. Now, I didn't do that. Old Cleater did that when he flipped this thing over. See, he took her for a roll a while back. But yeah, we got her put back together. Everything's back the way it was. I got to take it back down to him this weekend, along with the smart car that I borrowed to drive back up after the Christmas tree race, because me, Will, Kimber, and CJ were down with Soccer Mom for the Christmas tree race. Well, when we heard Soccer Mom, we decided to go home to start taking Soccer Mom apart while the Christmas tree race was going on. And then we went over to the shop like you saw in Cleese's video and my Christmas video. So we went over there, and then Cleet roped me into driving Ruby, which was awesome. Showed a lot of potential for the one pass we made with it. Got the RPM miss fixed that was plaguing the car for so long. So all that's exciting. But Kimber, Will, and CJ still came home and pulled the motor out of Soccer Mom. Started working on a game plan. Well, that left me stuck in Bradenton. So borrowed it's actually not a smart car, it's a Spark. Chevrolet Spark that they use for pit vehicle, as well as driving around if we need to go run errands while we're at events or something like that. But I've got to take it back, take the side-by-side back. Yeah, so that's that. So Richard's car is done, tuned, at least enough to go to the racetrack. The only thing I've got left to do is roll it outside here in just a few minutes, and we're gonna put it up on the two-step, tune the bump a little bit just to make sure it's not really, really violent on the bump. But stay tuned for that. We've got a bunch of work done on Phil's NASCAR, which I don't know if we can see too much of it from underneath, but we got the radiator fan mounted. We ended up redoing some of the oil lines back here where they were rubbing up against the steering pieces. So we fixed that. Mounted an expansion tank up there, which you can kind of see. So this feeds into the bottom of the, or feeds into the inlet of the water pump. Remade the connections for the coolant hoses, and we made a overflow bottle that mounts back here to the firewall, and then if this fills up, well, it shoots water out of that hole right up there in the hood, which no, we didn't drill that hole in the hood, it was already in it. In case you're wondering, yeah, that's a very expensive carbon fiber hood that the previous generation NASCAR Cup cars used. This is a real deal Richard Childress Racing Sprint Cup car, and pretty soon we're going to be tuning this on the dyno, as in like next week. I was trying to get to it today, had to work on some alignment stuff, smashed my face on Richard's car this morning, so that's what happened with all that. Took us a little longer to wrap that thing up, but finally got the alignment and the scaling where I wanted it. There was a lot of adjustment available in that front suspension, and it took me a little while to get both sides matched, as well as the dimensions that I wanted to have in the car. I was trying to get between 6 and 7 degrees of caster and somewhere around ½ a degree of negative camber. Just seems like where the bump steer and everything works out the best. But anyways, we got that all done now. So we'll be rolling it outside here in just a second. Give you a little quick overview of everything going on under the hood. If you haven't watched any of the updates on this video, it's a stock bottom end 5.3, 80mm turbo. Car is going to be 3,200 pounds on the track with Rick in it. And we've got, this is basically an expansion tank here, which some of you asked about. What is the expansion tank? Well, basically it's just, especially when the radiators are kind of low mounted, this ends up being the highest point in the cooling system. And you can see we run an air bleed from here, from the top of the radiator into the tank, as well as the steam ports return into the tank. And then it's kind of like a self-bleeding system all the time. And we hook up, you know, the bottom line here feeds into where the engine draws water in, right there. And basically you could have a small air pocket in the top of the expansion tank, kind of like your factory car. If you look at any newer, I think most new factory cars have an expansion tank usually on one of the fenders, and that allows you to have some, I call it an air spring, which if you watched Cletus's Christmas tree race, when they had filled the radiator back after putting the engine back in, they had filled it all the way to the top. Well, in doing that, there's no room for any kind of expansion, and so what happens is it shows a ton of coolant pressure and it pulls a bunch of timing out of it, the way I have the safety set up in the car. So by doing an expansion tank, which actually I didn't do in Mullet, maybe wish I did, but you can do the same thing with your radiator if the radiator is mounted in a standard location. Leave some, usually an 1.5 inch air gap at the top of the radiator so that it's got some room to expand, and I don't know what makes it work, but it works. All right, so moving on to Sean's car. You can see things are going back together in here, and it's shiny now. Got all of the front stuff powder coated frame-wise. I've got one more batch to go out to powder coating. We've got the turbo back on this side. Doing a little bit of wiring rearranging over here where we moved the cutoff solenoid because Sean had a larger starter that he wanted to install on the engine. So we did all that. And you know how things go. You change one thing, you end up changing 5 other things. And something you think should take 10 minutes takes 2 hours. It's not just you guys that have that problem. It happens to us too. So that's pretty much going back together. Hopefully be cranking that back up next week. The last batch of stuff we've got to powder coat. The core support, the throttle body Y, the crankcase vent tanks, charge pipes. These are the pipes that go down to from the radiator core support down to the inlets of the turbos. And then these pieces hold the filters in to the front of this air box right here. So you can kind of see how that's all going to work out. I'll show that more in depth once we get to putting that back together. The battery box needs to be powder coated, parachute pack, headlight brackets, headlight grill brackets, as well as the lower control arms, expansion tank, all that fun stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull Richard's car out and let's see if we can get some bump tuning on it, and then move on to some other fun stuff. All right, so another thing that we do here as a shop is we take care of as many people as we can when they have some kind of emergency pop up, which, as you might know, can kind of wreck the schedule that's going on in the shop. Sometimes it's Cletus, sometimes it's another customer. But we've got an example that came in today that's not one we've had to fix before, but it's something that I think we can fix. You can kind of hear the noise going on in the background. And what somebody did to this LS block is they rammed the bolt in where there wasn't supposed to be a bolt. So that hole ain't supposed to be there. And this thing was together for a little while, and it had a random water leak that we were chasing. Thought it maybe was the steam port kit. Thought maybe we had heard a head gasket. Luckily, we didn't pull the heads off of it. So Kimber was at the track with the car, chasing it down and put it on the lift at his house. And they found it was leaking from inside the bell housing. So took the motor out, and this is what we've got to fix. So I'm gonna fire up the welder here. CJ's preheating it. Cleaned it all up for me, so I should have something to weld. And let's see what we can make happen. See what we can make happen. That actually went better than I thought it was going to. Just a little bit of a ridge right there.
Maybe you do know how well.
All right. Well, I think that went pretty good. Got it cleaned up pretty nice. Only the soot around it's where I kind of stuck the tungsten in the puddle, but be all right. So cool. Another little quick shop project, but I think the owner was very worried that the block was damaged beyond repair, but I think we got her fixed. up a little bit before I blast it up onto the two-step. Gotta put some heat in your motor. All of that ready to go. Probably let it warm up to 140, 150 degrees. A pretty fun little combination. I mean, it's not going to be near as fast as Soccer Mom, but should be something that should run into the 8s. I think even at 3,200 pounds. Very, very mild combination. If you can hear by the sound of it idling, it's not extreme at all. And didn't really lean on it super hard on the dyno. I think there's still more left. But that's kind of the way we do our tuning and stuff. All right, there's 156. Charging good. Let's see what it looks like when it bumps. The old converter in here is a little snug. So she went to about 3,200 RPM there, trying to get to 3,500 RPM. So I'm going to look and see what I can do to try and get just a little bit more RPM out of it. Might have to play around with timing or something to see if I can get this thing to start making a little bit of boost. I could have tested the bump right then and there, but I want to also have the thing make a little boost too. So hold on just a second. All right, well, let's try this again. Add a little more dome pressure to the target boost on the trans brake. That was the first time I've ever tried to make boost on the trans brake. It made a tiny bit, but not enough. So I'm gonna try this again. We'll see what happens this time. Alright, well, better, but the bump didn't work. So we're going to tweak on those numbers just a little bit, and then we'll try this again. Okay. Alright, so we made 4.5 pounds of boost that last time. Going to make a few more changes. I did some adjustments to the bump setting, and the method I use for the bump, basically it's on a scale of 0 to 100, percentage-wise, for fluttering the trans brake solenoid. And 100% means it's on, not moving. 0 means it's completely off. So somewhere in the middle, there's a setting that will make the trans brake flutter enough to allow the car to move. Every car seems to be a little bit different in my experience. Typically I start out around 60% on the duty cycle when you hit the bump button while you're on the trans brake. Well, with this one, apparently it was too much. So it wasn't enough to reverse enough to allow the car to creep forward just a little bit while I was trying to bump it. So let's try it again. I lowered the numbers by a pretty good bit to try and get it to move. Might be a little violent this time, but then it'll give me an idea of where to go back and try to balance it from.
Looking kind of...
Am I gonna have a black eye?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I think I can see it right there already. Dang it. Oh well.
Just tell everybody how the guy lives first.
All right, we're gonna try this one more time, and then I'm going home because I got a date tonight with Crystal. Yeah. Hold on just a second.
Still no bumpy. Yeah. I have to go home and think on that one.
Well, it shows it fluttering.
Really? Huh.
Shows it fluttering in the data log. It apparently just isn't enough. All right, well, it flutters. Let's go one more time. Freaking do a wheelie through the shop now.
That was going from 45 to 20.
Yeah, but I mean that's you cutting it in half, so
It didn't even move before.
Well, I don't know. Craziness. Of course, I know it don't take much of a number change to make a difference.
well, let's go 30. Definitely.
Yeah, it just spun the tires. It didn't bump.
All right, firing on.
More better.
That was nice.
More better. Yep. What was that, 30?
Yeah, that was hitting and holding it, so.
Oh, cool. Good job, man.
Sweet. So we reeled her in.
I'd do this for a living.
Maybe so. Came up and plateaued right at 5.9 pounds of boost, right where we were targeting it. That's cool. All right, we got something to work with. Well, roll this thing back in the shop, head home, go out on my date. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks again for watching, subscribing. Sorry it took me so long to make another video. Hopefully in the next video I don't have a black eye. If I do, oh well. It's life. So, thanks again. See you guys next time.